Since the start of the pandemic, nearly 400,000 unemployment claims here in Texas alone have been flagged as fraudulent. But despite being flagged, the CBS 11i team discovered some claims are still being paid out. Investigative reporter Brian New with a gap in the system that has allowed fraud cases to go on for months.
When the Texas Workforce Commission sent a notice in the mail to a Dallas company saying someone applied for unemployment benefits under Scott Tim's name,
of course, that was a shock to them and a shock to me. I've worked here for 16 years.
Scott says he and his employer immediately contacted TWC to report the fraud.
And I didn't receive anything for a long time, so, like a fool, I thought everything was fine.
Nearly 6 months later came another notice in the mail, this one saying Scott owed more than $7,000 in overpaid benefits.
What this means is that my employer, flagged it as fraud immediately, but for a long period of time, they kept making payments to whoever perpetrated the fraud.
Scott once again immediately called TWC.
I've been calling for many, many weeks. I've received no contact from any person there whatsoever. And yet these problems are mounting for me, and it's on me. It's my problem.
What's so frustrating, Scott says, is just last month he listened to TWC Director Ed Cerna on our station talk about how to stop fraud.
If they receive a notice from TWC, whether they are an employer or an individual, don't ignore it.
And that's what he did. Scott didn't ignore it, but he says it didn't help. TWC says 75% of fraud activity is caught and stopped before any money goes out. But the state agency told the I-Team because of a large number of reported fraud cases, sometimes the process of locking an account can take some time. TWC says its investigators are working long hours on these fraud cases, but because of privacy concerns, it could not comment directly on Scott's case. Meanwhile, Scott has received another notice, this one telling him that he owes taxes on those unemployment benefits that he never received and that he reported as fraud. In Frisco, Brian New, CBS 11 News.